Um, Look, almost every morning Donald Trump wakes up and makes threats to cities across this country. And they are threats that use the language of safety, and yet we know they have nothing to do with that, because if they did, then it would mean deploying the National Guard to the eight out of 10 states with the highest crime rates, but they're all run by Republicans, so that would never even be considered.
Yes.
In fact, it's about intimidation. It's about trying to create a sense of fear. And I agree with the police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, here in New York City, that we do not need the National Guard. We have the NYPD to create that public safety, and that's what I'm looking.
In today's video, Mamdani and Pakman demonstrate how strong local leadership can truly reshape life for New Yorkers. There's real precedent for this. States like California pushed back against federal overreach under Trump and won back billions through the courts, proving the power of smart strategy. The discussion also highlights how free public transit can transform communities. Around the world, cities that made transportation fully accessible have seen stronger economies, shorter commutes, and a surge in ridership, showing that it's an investment rather than an expense. Pakman's point lands powerfully. When voters choose bold solutions, democracy should allow those ideas to be tested and judged by results, not fear. Let's dive in and see how Zohran Mamdani and David Pakman on The David Pakman Show explore the future of New York.
Forward to working with. And I think, as you said, there's the utility of the courts, which must be used and also sometimes takes its time. I think there is also the importance of building a political coalition such that everyone understands that it's not Donald Trump versus Zohran Mamdani. It's Donald Trump versus New York City. And the way that you do that is by ensuring that you are reflecting the true breadth of who this would affect in New York City. We're talking about the governor, the attorney general, myself as the mayor. We're talking about small businesses. We're talking about faith leaders. We're talking about immigrant advocates. This is an attack on the very fabric of the city, because I think too often Republicans set the narrative and then Democrats allow it to fester. We don't even combat it. We don't offer our own affirmative vision. We don't actually put forward why it is that we are in politics. And that's what I would be doing as the next mayor of the city.
Now, in nuts and bolts terms, what does it mean if they physically show up? Because again, the lawsuits we've seen them work, but after the fact, is it deputizing NYPD to resist the federalization? What are we doing nuts and bolts?
I think one of the first things is that you are prepared for the use of the courts in advance of that decision. This is not something where you are then starting to put together your brief. And that's, for me, what the 57 days between Election Day and January 1st have to look like. It has to look like that work of preparation such that January 1st you hit the ground running. The second part of this is I've made very clear that I believe that everyone should be held to the same standard of the law. And if ICE agents are breaking the law here in New York City, they should be held to account for it. And this is something that sadly is missing in so much of our politics today, where we try to create a different set of rules on the basis of who we would apply them to. And part of the reason that Donald Trump is currently prosecuting Attorney General Tish James is because she had the gall to hold him to account to that same set of laws. So the nuts and bolts will look like that clear directive in this city, that everyone will be held to account to the same law. It'll mean having the lawsuits prepared in advance if in case this is something that is pursued by the federal government, and ensuring that the coalition of the Attorney General, the governor, and myself is one that is ready to go, because one of the more successful examples of taking on the federal administration was in California, where you had the mayor of LA, the governor of California, the attorney general of California, all working together. And the attorney general there said that for every dollar they spent on legal fees, they recovered more than 30,000 in federal funds that would have otherwise been stripped from them.
Before I move on, you're saying ICE agents could be prosecuted as individuals depending on their actions in New York City
if they break the law.
This part of the conversation highlights an issue that rarely gets enough attention: the real tools cities can use to stand up against federal overreach. Mamdani is absolutely right to stress the importance of building a strong legal and political shield before any conflict begins. We've already seen this strategy work during the Trump years, when California's governor, attorney general, and major city mayors united to successfully block several federal attempts to seize state funds or force cooperation with immigration crackdowns. The courts sided with the states because constitutional protections still matter. Mamdani's argument is that New York must be ready to use that same power immediately, not months later when damage is already done. Pakman's question about how this plays out in real time, not just through legal filings, is equally valid, because situations on the ground can escalate fast. Cities like Chicago, Denver, and Seattle have already proven that refusing to assist ICE without a warrant isn't just symbolic, it's effective. Local law enforcement can reject federal deputization, and it works. Mamdani's stance that ICE should be held accountable when they violate local laws isn't radical when you consider that New York's sanctuary policies already classify some ICE tactics as civil rights violations. What's especially powerful is the coalition strategy Mamdani describes. When immigrant communities, small businesses, labor unions, faith leaders, and elected officials unite, they completely shift the narrative. It's not about liberal politicians versus Trump. It's about New Yorkers defending their home. That's how you win both in the courts and in public opinion. Pakman's thoughtful questioning strengthens this dynamic, pushing the discussion toward real, actionable steps instead of staying in the realm of political theory. Together, they show that resisting unlawful federal intrusion isn't chaos or defiance. It's a disciplined defense of democracy and community safety.
I'm very interested in free buses because I'm from Argentina, and we have a whole background with regard to the way that buses have been used politically and also from a sort of logistical standpoint. Now, I really want to focus in on the funding piece. There are critics who say the state controls the MTA, and doing what you want to do would require a statewide tax increase, unlikely that a governor nor the state's population would go for it. Is that a fair criticism, or is that an incorrect criticism?
The fair aspect of it is that the state does control the MTA. The unfair aspect of it is that it misses the fact of when a city has a mayor that has an ambition that matches the scale of an issue, that you can actually change the political realities around how you win that funding. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Mayor Bloomberg was so passionate about the extension of the 7 train to Hudson Yards that he took on what is typically a state responsibility of the fiscal cost of building a new subway station and paid for it using city funds. That was more than $1 billion. I give that to you as an example of the way in which this position can be used to start to actually advocate and then implement a vision of mass transit that goes beyond what we have today. The cost for free buses is about $700 million. I've said that we would partner with the state in funding that. And part of this is out of my experience of being in the state legislature where we won the first fare free bus pilot. We made 5 bus routes free in New York City. And we often talk about this in the question of cost, but there's also the question of benefit. There is a study that has come out from a transit expert that puts forward an analysis that for the 700 million or so that we would spend, we would generate about 1.5 billion in economic benefits across New York City. And I've said that I believe the most important and clear and direct ways of raising this funds is by increasing personal income taxes on New Yorkers making $1 million or more by 2%, and by increasing the corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey at its top tier. I've also said that if there are other proposals of ways in which we can find the funding, the most important thing is the funding itself, not the manner in which we find it.
One of the things that I don't, and we'll find out because I have you here to ask, I don't believe that those estimates are dynamically adjusted for what is expected to be a change in ridership, maintenance on the buses, et cetera. Is it true, or is that incorrect? Is that priced into your estimates?
The 700 million is a current estimate. The MTA will put a number of different predictions forward. What I've often found is even the MTA's reliance on McKinsey for where their ridership numbers would be. We saw time and time again that the predictions were outstripping the realities. And that continues to be an issue for many New Yorkers.
So I guess the one piece would be, depending on the actual uptake, then there would have to be an accounting for, okay, number one, do we need more buses? Do the buses need more frequent maintenance? Do we need more staff? That is not currently in the 700, right?
The 700 is the replacement of the fare revenue. That's what the 700 is. And I think that, if our platform is about making buses fast and free, and these two things together will also require having a reimagination of the way in which we engage with bus transit across
What's truly striking in this moment is how the discussion shifts from political resistance to bold policy innovation, with both Mamdani and Pakman laser-focused on keeping transit reform grounded in real-world practicality. Mamdani's push for free buses isn't a dream. It reflects what major cities like Luxembourg and Vienna have already proven works. When fares were reduced or eliminated, ridership soared, air pollution fell, and neighborhoods that once lacked easy access to subways experienced renewed economic activity. Transit became more than just transportation. It became a driver of opportunity and economic mobility. Pakman's concerns about long-term operational costs are important too. Free fares are only one part of the equation. More riders mean more fleet use, faster maintenance needs, and additional staff to keep the system running smoothly. But that's not a deal breaker. It simply requires serious, proactive planning. Mamdani's honest response makes that clear. By acknowledging that bus speed upgrades and staff expansions must be part of the package, he shows he's not selling a fantasy. He's proposing a full-scale infrastructure transformation. His revenue ideas are equally grounded. New York once taxed high earners at higher rates than it does today, and even the modest increase Mamdani suggests is well below levels seen during earlier eras of economic growth. Aligning corporate tax rates with nearby states like New Jersey would also help, as companies already thriving in New York can easily absorb that adjustment. Plus, improving bus speeds is something the city fully controls. Expanding dedicated bus lanes and prioritizing buses in traffic could quickly boost reliability and cut commute times, further increasing adoption. So while Pakman is right to challenge the scalability and sustainability of the plan, Mamdani makes it clear that the payoff isn't hypothetical. It's measurable, achievable, and already proven in cities around the world.
The city, because the city controls the streets across the 5 boroughs, while the MTA is controlled by the state, and the streets determine how fast those buses move. And that's a question of busways, bus lanes, bus prioritization signals. That is critically important, and I'm very excited to be building a coalition that finally looks at that as it should be, which is political decisions.
One of the things I find myself wanting to tell my audience as we talk is, even if you and I have differences in terms of political and economic philosophies, which we do, one of the things that I think we have to do in this country is, if voters have decided they want to try something, we get to try it, and then we measure and we evaluate. And so for all of this stuff about, listen, I think there are some divisions on the left right now. And what I think is interesting about what's happening in New York, and of course the results are going to tell us what sort of a test we get, is we've tried a number of different things in different parts of this country, and we've also tried different things in New York. Even though I would not run on your campaign, we get to now see, if you win, what are the effects, and then voters get to vote again. And so while I recognize the differences within the left, and you and I are in different parts of the left, if voters have decided, and if they do decide that they want to try your approach, we get to try it. And anybody who is on any part of the left, I believe, has to be in favor of that.
Well, I really appreciate that. And I think that's what's so exciting about what comes after this election, is the opportunity to take an idea and implement it, because the worth of an idea comes from the implementation of that idea. We cannot believe in things purely in theory. We have to believe in them also in practice. And this now gives us that opportunity to deliver on that. And I really appreciate your analysis of the fact that this is now going to be a collective effort to live up to the will of voters here in New York City. And I'm very excited to be a part of it.
We didn't have time for what you will do about the scourge of tourists walking slowly, but I think that maybe we have to leave for that's a much bigger issue than the free buses, quite frankly.
Yeah, well, look, I love to walk fast, and I love to also tell tourists that they're welcome in this city, and we have to be able to hold both of these things at the same time. But David, it's been a real pleasure to be on, and especially with just very little time until election day, to have this opportunity to share our message of making the most expensive city in the United States of America one that's affordable for every New Yorker. And you can only do so by actually changing the politics at hand. And that's what our campaign presents an opportunity to do. And it's been such an exhilarating experience to build this movement alongside so many other New Yorkers and out across the finish line tomorrow night at 9 p.m.
What really stands out here is how both Mamdani and Pakman reinforce a truth that often gets buried in political debates. Democracy is about experimentation. When voters choose a bold policy direction, the system should allow that choice to be tested and judged by real-world results. Mamdani's focus on the political decisions behind street use is crucial because bus lanes aren't a technical issue. They're a reflection of priorities. Cities like Boston and Seattle dramatically improved bus speeds simply by reallocating road space. And once buses moved faster than cars, more people started choosing them. That shift actually reduced congestion rather than adding to it, a fact proven in cities from Bogota to Paris. So when Mamdani says free and fast go hand in hand, it isn't just rhetoric. It's a proven transit strategy. Pakman's perspective adds necessary balance. Even for those who don't share Mamdani's politics, the democratic principle remains the same. Let ideas be tried, measured, and judged. It's the same logic that drives pilot programs, and New York already has its own data to back it up. The city's 5 existing free bus routes saw dramatic spikes in ridership without any of the chaos critics predicted. That's the kind of evidence that should shape the next steps, not fear of innovation. This approach also ensures accountability. If free transit underperforms, voters can demand change. But if it succeeds by improving mobility, cutting commute times, and giving working-class New Yorkers a system that finally works for them, it could serve as a national model for meaningful urban reform. Mamdani's boldness, paired with Pakman's insistence on careful evaluation, creates a balance that's essential for progress. When politics makes space for both vision and rigorous testing, that's when cities truly move forward.